Hi everyone, welcome to the case study session on corporate governance issues by Shunya IAS in its ethics course. We'll be doing some case studies on corporate governance issues, and this slide will deal with why corporate governance issues have become very important in recent years and why you should be focusing on such case studies for your preparation for the upcoming ethics exams. So corporate scandals like ILNFS, PNB, Yes Bank, it has been there in the news. You have been reading about it in your current affairs magazines and in the newspapers and listening to debates about it, right? So it is only a matter of time before UPSC picks up this particular topic and this particular portion of the syllabus and starts asking case studies on it because it is a very important ethical issue which has gained steam in the last few years. So like technology-based case studies, these have not been asked much in the GS4 paper, but they might be asked in upcoming years as they have become a major focus of the government and national media. So a lot of discussions have been happening on how corporates should take care of the social responsibility, how they are damaging the environment, how different profiteering activities of the corporates are hurting social objectives. So all these things are there in the news, and it is a very important field from where questions can be asked. And as the business sector becomes more prominent and private sector plays a major role in economics of the country, the corporate governance issues will become more and more mainstream. So as you all know, after the LPG reforms in 1991, India has opened up a lot of industries to the private sector, and there are very few industries which are the mainstay of the government these days. So this is something which can be asked, right? So moving on to the first case study, this is question 5 of 2020 exam in section B of GS mains paper 4, right? So and this is not exactly corporate governance, but it is a kind of corporate governance based case study because it deals with the business being set up in a particular place and what could be the issues with that, right? So, Parmal is a small but underdeveloped district. It has rocky terrain that is not suitable for agriculture, though some subsistence agriculture is being done on small plots of land. The area receives adequate rainfall and has an irrigation canal flowing through it. Amria, its administrative center, is a medium-sized town. It hosts a large district hospital, an industrial training institute, and some privately owned skill training centers. It has all the facilities of a district headquarters. A trunk railway line passes approximately 50 kilometers from Amria. Its poor connectivity is a major reason for the absence of any major industry therein. The state government offers a 10 years tax holiday as an incentive to new industry. Right? So here Parmal is a small underdeveloped district. Due to rocky terrain, it's not suitable for agriculture, but some subsistence agriculture is there so that people can survive. It is being done on very small plots of land. Area has adequate rainfall and also has irrigation canal flowing through it. Amria is the administrative center. It is a medium-sized town which has large district hospital, industrial training institute, and privately owned skill training centers. Uh, Other facilities of district headquarters are available in Amria. Trunk railway line passes around 50 kilometers from Amria, and that is the reason the poor connectivity is there, and there's no major industry in the district headquarter or the district. So now to incentivize new industry to set up here, government has offered a 10 years tax holiday. So in 2010, Anil, an industrialist, decided to take benefits to set up Amria Plastic Works in Noora village, about 20 kilometers from Amria. While the factory was being built, Anil hired the required key labor and got them trained at the skill training centers at Amria. This act of his made the key personnel very loyal to APW. So now, because there is a 10 years tax holiday, so Anil has taken up this opportunity. He's an industrialist. He set up Amria Plastic Works in Noora village. Now, this village is a part of Parmal district, but it is 20 kilometers from Amria. Anil hired the labor from the local villages, and he has got them trained at skill training centers which are present in Amria. Now, because of this, the personnel has become very loyal to APW. So, moving on to the next slide, APW started production in 2011 with the labor drawn fully from Noora village. The villagers were very happy to get employment near their homes and were motivated by the key personnel to meet the production targets with high quality. APW started making large profits, a sizable portion of which was used to improve the quality of life in Noora. By 2016, Noora could boast of a greener village and a renovated village temple. Anil liaised with the local MLA to increase the frequency of the bus services to Amria. The government also opened a primary health care center and primary school at Noora in buildings constructed by APW. APW used its CSR funds to set up women's self-help groups, subsidize primary education to the village children, and procure an ambulance for use by its employees and the needy. In 2019, there was a minor fire in APW. It was quickly extinguished as fire safety protocols were in place in the factory. Investigations revealed that the factory had been using electricity in excess of its authorized capacity. This was soon rectified. So here we are talking about the further operations of APW. It started production 2011. Labor was fully from Noora village, and the laborers are very happy to get employment near their homes. So they were very motivated by key personnel to meet production targets and with high quality. So then APW started making large profits, sizable portion of which was used to improve the quality of life in Noora, right? So it is looking like a classic case of how a corporate sector company should work. It is giving employment to people near their homes, and it is training the personnel in the industrial training centers located in the local areas, and then it is also using the profits that it is generating to improve the quality of life in the area where its employees are living. So by 2016, Noora had a green village and a renovated village temple. So these are the things that APW has been doing as part of its social responsibilities. Anil also liaised with the local MLA and increased frequency of bus services. As we had read earlier, limited connectivity was one of the major issues of why industrial development was lacking in Parmal district, and Anil has coordinated with the local MLA and tried to increase the frequency of bus services to Amria so that all these employees can travel to and fro easily. Also, a primary healthcare center and primary school were opened at Noora, and the buildings are constructed by APW, right? So, health and education are two very important things which help in human development, and APW has been taking care of both along with the help of the government. So now APW use CSR funds to set up women self-help groups. Basically, it's also focusing on women empowerment. It is subsidizing primary education to the village children, right? So all this is happening, and an ambulance has also been procured for use by employees and the needy. So now in 2019, there was a minor fire in APW. Now this fire was quickly extinguished as fire safety protocols were in place. But it was later realized that APW had been using electricity in excess of the capacity allowed, and but they immediately rectified the situation, right? So next year, due to nationwide lockdown, requirement of production fell for 4 months. And Anil decided that all employees would be paid regularly. So in spite of the national lockdown, they are not earning any revenues, but still they are paying all its employees. He employed them to plant trees and improve the village habitat. So he's continuing with his uh, mode of operations in which he is giving back to the local areas from where its employees live. APW had developed a reputation of high quality production and motivated workforce. Now you have to critically analyze the story of APW and state the ethical issues involved, right? So critically analyze means that you have to analyze the entire scenario and mention the positives as well as the negatives, right? And you also need to mention the ethical issues which are involved. Do you consider APW as a role model for development of backward areas? Now you can answer this in the affirmative, or you can answer this in the negative. It is up to you. What is important is the reasons that you give. So now this is 20 marks question. So there are three subparts to it: critically analyze, ethical issues involved, and whether you consider APW as a role model for development of backward areas, and you need to give reasons for the same. So you need to divide the answer or the space given for writing the answer equally between the three parts. So now we move on to the analysis. Parmal is a small but underdeveloped district. This is the main premise under which all of these things are happening. So this is very important, that it is a small district and it is underdeveloped. Why is it underdeveloped? Because of the rocky terrain. It is not suitable for agriculture, which means agriculture is out of the question for people to take up. So there is lack of employment. But some subsistence agriculture is there on small plots of land, because the land plots are small in size, so the agriculture is only subsistence agriculture, it does not flourish. But there's the third point, that area receives adequate rainfall. You also have an irrigation canal which is flowing through it, right? But the major issue in Parmal is that the rocky terrain is not suitable for agriculture. So next you have Amria, is administrative center of the district Parmal. It is a medium-sized town. It has a lot of facilities. There's a large district hospital. It has an industrial training institute, privately owned skill training centers, and it has all the facilities of a district headquarter, right? So all of this is there. The administrative center of Parmal is a place where a lot of facilities are available. But the issue is mentioned in the next point. The trunk railway line passes around 50 kilometers from Amria. Because of this, there is poor connectivity, and this is a major reason for absence of any major industry therein. As you all know, for any industry to develop and flourish, particularly manufacturing industry or trading industry, you need connectivity, you need transportation, so that physical goods can be moved towards your go downs, your factories, and then it can be taken to the markets, and raw materials can be procured and kept in the factories, right? But because there is poor connectivity, there is lack of industry over here. Now the state government offers 10 years tax holiday as incentive to new industry. So to take care of this situation and to help build industries in this particular area, 10 years tax holiday is given, and it is an incentive for new industries to be set up. Now Anil is the industrialist. He sets up Amria Plastic Works in Noora village, about 20 kilometers from Amria, hired the required key labor and got them trained at skill training centers at Amria, and this makes key personnel very loyal to APW. So there's this industrialist, he has taken up this opportunity of tax holiday. He sets up Amria Plastic Works in Noora village. It is again 20 kilometers from Amria. So this is good news for the Parmal district, because one particular industrialist has taken initiative. He has hired the key labor from the local villages, and he got them trained at skill training centers in the administrative center, which is Amria, right? So the key personnel is very loyal to APW. So APW starts production in 2011 with labor fully drawn from Noora village. So the entire labor is drawn locally. The people are happy to get employment near their homes, motivated by the key personnel to meet the production targets with high quality, right? So everyone is happy to get employment, and they are motivated to work near their homes and meet production targets and with good quality. So large profits are generated by APW, and a sizable portion of this is being used to improve the quality of life in Noora. So APW is giving back to the society from which it is taking labor and resources, right? Now, in 2016, Noora has become a greener village, and there's a renovated village temple. This has been done by APW. APW or ANIL has liaised with local MLA to increase frequency of bus services to Amria. Now, this is the thing that because connectivity was a major issue, uh, and it was affecting the development at Amria, which is the administrative center. So ANIL has liaised with the local MLA and increased the frequency of bus services so that the employees who are working in APW can commute freely, right? Government also opened a primary healthcare center and primary school at Noora in buildings constructed by APW. So the government has constructed both primary healthcare center and school, and this will help in further human development of the population staying at Noora, and the buildings have been provided by APW. So CSR funds were used to set up women self-help groups, subsidize primary education to the village children, and procure an ambulance for use by its employees and the needy. So APW is doing a lot of good corporate social responsibility works. Now in 2019, there's a minor fire in APW. It was quickly extinguished because fire safety protocols were already in place. And it was realized that APW was using electricity in excess of authorized capacity, and they rectified the entire thing soon. So next year there's a nationwide lockdown. The requirement of production fell for 4 months, but APW has continued paying the employees regularly, and they were used to plant trees and improve the village habitat, right? So reputation of high quality production and a motivated workforce is what APW stands for. Now, as we already discussed, we have three parts of this question: critically analyze, ethical issues involved, and whether we consider APW as a role model for development of backward areas, right? Along with reasons. Moving on to the critical analysis part. We have already discussed this particular case study in the analysis slides. Now, what you need to do over here in critical analysis is that you need to explain why a particular point is positive in the given case study and why a particular point is negative in the given case study, right? So let us begin and try to analyze each statement given in the case study point by point. So Parmal district cannot have sustainable agricultural operations because of rocky terrain, even though it receives adequate rainfall. Hence, new industries can be opened up in this area to provide economic sustenance. Because agriculture cannot be done, so you need other avenues. It could be industries or services. Here we are taking up new industries, and provision of tax holiday as an incentive to new industries, thus a welcome step, right? So this is a good step taken by the state government. And Amria is the district headquarter with all the facilities, but due to poor connectivity, there's no major industry therein. Thus, the fact that APW lies with the local MLA to increase frequency of bus services will help set up new industries. Also, efforts should be made to increase rail and road connectivity to the district, right? So, Amria has all the facilities of district headquarters, but there's no connectivity, and that is why we suggest that rail and road connectivity should be improved, and APW can liaise with the local MLA, right? Next is setting up of APW is good for Amria. However, the business of plastic works is not environmentally friendly. So now you are pointing out a pitfall of the business of Amria Plastic Works. It might pollute the area with plastic and its byproducts. So this can be a negative externality of the business operations conducted by APW. Next point is hired the required key labor and got them trained at skill training centers at Amra. This is a very progressive step as it is the result of positive externalities of APW being set up and helps build human capital. So one good thing due to APW starting operations is that local people are getting employment and they are getting trained at the skill training centers which are there in Amria. Now these skill training centers are benefiting from the setting up of APW as well. Plus it is helping build human capital and in the development of demographic dividend. So large profits are generated by APW and sizable portion is used to improve the quality of life in Noora through women self-help groups, primary education centers. So this is a good example of giving back to the society through corporate social responsibility, right? This is a very good example of how a corporate should use its funds in corporate social responsibility norms to give back to the society. Sometimes corporate organizations uh, take up things like beautification of a particular place, which does not really have an important social impact on the society in which it operates. So here, if you see, APW is using it to impact the society in which it operates positively. And that is a good example of corporate social responsibility. Next is opening of primary healthcare center and primary school at Noora in buildings constructed by APW is a good instance of public-private partnership. So both the government and the private sector are collaborating, and this is leading to good social outcomes in this particular place, right? However, instead of relying on a single company for development, there should be diversified industry being set up, right? This is a very important point because let's say tomorrow something happens to the operations of APW. What will happen to the employment being generated by all these people? Where will all these people go, right? So there should be diversified industries being set up, not only APW. In addition to this, small scale industry and cooperators should also be encouraged. Now that connectivity is being scaled up and everything, the skill training centers are being used, small scale industry and cooperatives can pick up certain small business opportunities and start operating in Amria. Another thing that can help is training the village youth in different services sectors, for example, electrician or some little technical jobs that they can do, right? So because industries are still being set up, connectivity is not there, but services usually don't need that kind of uh, rail connectivity as such, because the product is intangible, and because the bus services frequency has increased to and from Amria, so this can be done. Services industries can be encouraged, right? Last point is, moreover, there should be balanced regional development. All the development is happening only in Amria or Noora village. The benefits should trickle down to other areas in the district as well. We need equitable, balanced regional development, and that is not happening in this particular case. Coming to the next part of the question, ethical issues involved. So here we will be explaining the basic ethical issues which are involved in the functioning of Amria Plastic Works. So the first thing is that economic development of Parmal versus sustainable business ventures. So now, as you have seen, Amria Plastic Works is a company which focuses on plastic products, right? Plastic, as you all know, is not environmentally friendly. It is not good for the environment or the society or for the health of the ecosystem or biodiversity, because plastic leaves certain particles which are very small, and they are invisible to the naked eye, and these are called microplastics. And plus, the manufacturing process might involve certain environmentally hazardous byproducts. So these things are they're basically an indispensable part of APW's business operations, and that is why there's a dichotomy or conflict between the economic development of Parmal and the sustainable business ventures that we aspire to have as part of a region like Parmal, right? Next part is balanced regional development. So the ethical issue here is that all the development is happening only around Amria, only in Noora village. So nothing is happening in the rest of the district. So this is not balanced regional development. Ethically, every part of the district should have an opportunity to develop and to progress further. But here, as we can see, the focus is on Noora village and Amria in the entire Parmal district. The next ethical issue is government provision of public goods versus private initiative. So here, as we can see that health and education is something that is a public good, and public goods should be provided by the government is what we have studied in economics. But because of lacking infrastructure and less resources and scarcity and underdevelopment of the district, we are involving APW to provide the buildings that it has constructed. To APW is also taking its own initiatives to form women self-help groups, etc. So basically, these are public goods which are being provided with the help of private initiative. And here we have to see that the character of a public good is maintained, and all of the activities being taken under private initiative can be deceptive, and they can be like profiteering. For example, in the hospital which is set up by the government along with the help of APW, the charges might be more, right? So then it defeats the purpose of setting up a hospital in such a backward district, right? So there have to be certain checks and balances that we have to ensure whenever we are dealing with such a private initiative in the provision of public goods. Next ethical issue is long-term development versus short-term development. So here we are majorly focusing on short-term development and quick wins, right? Long-term development will involve skilling the youth, educating the youth in different sectors, and letting them gain different skills like digital skills, life skills, financial skills, so that they have many more opportunities, right? And plastic is something which is not environmentally sustainable. We can instead look at developing other cottage industries in Parmal district, and we can also look at other technological inventions which can help them perform agriculture at such a rocky terrain, right? So there is a difference. We are just focusing on quick wins being set up by APW by providing tax holiday, instead of focusing on the holistic long-term development of the entire area. The last ethical issue is business objectives versus public needs. So now business objectives here are forming Amria Plastic Works, and getting the employees trained in the skills that are required by APW. Whereas public needs basically entail skilling all the youth of the area in different sectors so that they can get profitable employment even at Parmal. They can maybe set up cottage industries or form good farmers cooperatives or do something of that sort. And public needs are different from what Amria Plastic Works thinks what is required, right? So there is a difference between what is good for the region and what Amria Plastic Works is doing. It is good for the region, but APW has its own interests involved while doing these things, whereas public needs have to be satisfied or met impartially. Okay, now coming to the last part of the question, do you consider APW as a role model for development of backward areas? And you need to give reasons, right? So here we are going to decide whether we want to suggest that APW is a good role model for development of backward areas. Whatever critical analysis that we have done or whatever ethical issues that we have identified, we should be using those in our answer in this question to frame reasons, right? So my answer would be no, I do not consider APW as a role model for development of backward areas. Now you can agree that APW is a good role model, and you can justify it with whatever reasons that you can think of, right? Here the main part is reasoning, how you reason. The main part is not agreeing or disagreeing, right? You can agree or disagree, but please write cogent reasons for the same. So my reason is because even though APW is doing a spectacular job at its business and corporate social responsibility, the following factors need to be considered for development of backward areas. And which are the factors that I'm talking about over here? It is sustainable development. So APW has been set up in this area only after the tax holiday was given. So one thing is that the 10 years tax holiday is what has attracted this particular company. So once the tax holiday is over, will APW continue investing and developing in the region, right? Second thing is that it has the business objective of manufacturing plastic works. Now that is environmentally not sustainable. The third thing is the labor and employment, the training that these people are being given only applies to APW, what APW needs, right? It does not apply to other areas. So again, the youth has to have diversified skill set. Then the fourth thing here in sustainable development is that if we are relying on just one particular company for employment, for any social norms and everything, it has to be a diversified sector. There has to be cottage industries, there have to be services sectors, so a lot of other things need to be developed, right? Then second thing is community led initiatives. Here APW is leading all the initiatives. So APW is doing what it thinks is good for the society or good for its own business interests. Whereas community-led initiatives will focus on what exactly it is that the community needs for socio-economic development. So we should be focusing on community-led initiatives for development of backward areas. Third is community planning. Now, APW is setting up a hospital and primary education centers, etc. But the community should decide what exactly it needs and it should plan that way, right? So it should be a community planning so that the entire community can step forward and progress together. So that is another issue why I feel APW is not a role model for development of backward areas. Next thing, as we've already discussed earlier, we can repeat such points in different parts of the question, right? If such points are relevant for to answer that part of the question, right? So I want balanced regional development to happen in the entire district. I don't want only a part of the district to flourish. So this will be similar to only Gurgaon flourishing and nearby areas in Haryana not flourishing, right? So there should be balanced regional development, which can be done only if diversified industries are being set up and multiple sectors are being introduced in the particular district. Next, equitable opportunities. Here, as we can see, everyone is getting only a job in APW at whatever level, and so there are no equitable opportunities. Let's say there is a youth who has completed his or her post-graduation studies and is a PhD. He does not have good opportunities in the region as yet, right? So everyone should be able to get good opportunities in the particular region or nearby areas or nearby states. So that is something that should be ensured. Then reaping demographic dividend through investment in health and education. So health and education across the entire spectrum from infancy to childhood to adolescence and to adulthood. So demographic dividend has to be developed, right? And it has to be capitalized on. So this is not happening in this particular region, and it has to get more governmental support for it to be able to happen on a sustainable and long-term basis. Finally, furthering employment through skill training initiatives. This is another thing that, as I've been mentioning again and again, skill training initiatives have to further more employment. So these two things have to go hand in hand. So now we move on to case study number 2. In the early morning hours of December 3, 1984, a poisonous grey cloud, 40 tons of toxic gases, from Union Carbide India Limited's pesticide plant at Bhopal spread throughout the city. Water carrying catalytic material had entered methyl isocyanate storage tank number 610. What followed was a nightmare. The killer gas spread through the city, sending residents scurrying through the dark streets. No alarm ever sounded a warning, and no evacuation plan was prepared. When victims arrived at hospitals, breathless and blind, doctors did not know how to treat them, as UCIL had not provided emergency information. It was only when the sun rose the next morning that the magnitude of the devastation was clear. Dead bodies of humans and animals blocked the streets. Leaves turned black. The smell of burning chili peppers lingered in the air. Estimates suggested that as many as 10,000 may have died immediately, and 30,000 to 50,000 were too ill to ever return to their jobs. Discuss the ethical issues involved in this case. As the district collector of one of the districts in Bhopal, what would you do in this situation? As the CEO of Union Carbide, how would you handle the situation? Please suggest some institutional measures to be taken to prevent such a situation from happening in the future. So this is a case study, as you would have already guessed, on the Bhopal gas tragedy. Now this is how contemporary or recent or even like 2-3 decades ago, whatever event has happened can be taken up and framed into a corporate governance case study, right? So for instance, the BP oil spill was in news a few years back, right? So that can easily be taken and formed into an environmental come corporate governance case study, right? So whenever you're reading the newspaper, please be alert and try to think what you will do as different stakeholders in the particular situation, how people are handling that particular situation. And so this will form the preparation for your GS4 paper. This is a part of your preparation, right? It's a situational case study, and it can also be asked in the interviews. It is asked in the interviews as a DM, what would you do in such a situation or in a different situation, or if you are a part of the IPS, what will you do, right? So all of this forms a part of your UPSC preparation. While reading the newspaper, please keep thinking about different scenarios of what could happen, how you would have dealt with this particular situation, and so on, right? So coming back to this particular case study, there are four parts of this question, and if you can notice or observe that I have asked parts B and C as district collector and as CEO of Union Carbide. So you should be able to think of ethical dimensions also from the point of view of any other person, not only a government functionary, right? So in the early morning hours of December 3, 1984, that is when this incident happened, a poisonous grey cloud, 40 tons of toxic gases. Imagine 40 tons of toxic gases were there in one of the pesticide plants, right? From Union Carbide India Limited's pesticide plant at Bhopal. It spread throughout the city. So what was the reason? Water carrying catalytic material had entered methyl isocyanate storage tank number 610. And what followed was a nightmare. The killer gas spread through the city, sending residents scurrying through the dark streets. Right? Now, this was a gas, it was a poisonous and toxic gas, and it has spread through the city, and it caused health issues in all the occupants of the city. No alarm ever sounded a warning, and no evacuation plan was prepared. So, no one had anticipated such a disaster to happen. So there was no alarm and there was no evacuation plan. So when victims arrived at hospitals breathless and blind, so these are the two side effects that happened immediately. People were breathless and people were blind. Doctors did not know how to treat them because UCIL had not provided any emergency information, right? So the cause was not known. How will they diagnose what has happened and how will they treat the people? It was only when the sun arose the next morning that the magnitude of the devastation was clear. So, how big this event was could only be fathomed the next day. Dead bodies of humans and animals blocked the streets, leaves turned black, the smell of burning chili peppers lingered in the air. So there were lots and lots of dead bodies of human beings and animals, and the leaves turned black, and there was a smell of burning chili peppers, right? So all of this showed the magnitude of the destruction that had happened due to the poisonous gas being leaked from the pesticide plant. Estimates suggested that as many as 10,000 may have died immediately, and 30,000 to 50,000 were too ill to ever return to their jobs. So this disaster killed so many people in just one night. And so many of the other people were disabled for life. So now, four parts to the question. It's a 20 marks question, 250 words. You have to divide the answer in four equal parts. One is discuss the ethical issues involved in the case. Second, as district collector of one of the districts in Bhopal. So if you were there in that situation, what would you do to handle the situation, right? Next is, as the CEO of Union Carbide, how would you handle the situation? Now you are on the other side of the table. You are the CEO of Union Carbide. Now you have to explain what will you do in this particular situation. Every one of us knows that Union Carbide did not pay any compensation, and they kind of defended their stand and they held the government of India responsible for such a mishap. But was it ethical? Was the CEO or the chairman of UCIL justified in fleeing the country and not coming back to face any penalties or punishment? Right? So, how would you handle the situation? What is the ethical thing to do in such a situation? Then suggest some institutional measures to be taken to prevent such a situation from happening in the future. So now whatever has happened has happened. What will you do to prevent this situation from repeating? And here you have to suggest some institutional measures, right? Coming to the analysis, we saw that there was a poisonous grey cloud, which was around 40 tons of toxic gases, which came out of Union Carbide India Limited's pesticide plant at Bhopal. Water carrying catalytic material had entered methyl isocyanate storage tank number 610. So there was a chemical reaction, and due to which toxic foams or toxic fumes and toxic gases came out of the pesticide plant at Bhopal. But since no one had anticipated such a man-made disaster to happen, there was no alarm, there was no evacuation plan, and victims arrived at hospitals breathless and blind. So due to these toxic gases going around the city, the people who were living in the city, they got all the side effects and they went to hospitals, but the doctors did not know how to treat them. UCIL had not provided any emergency information beforehand because they did not know that such a situation would ever arise. So the magnitude of the devastation was huge. There were dead bodies of humans and animals, leaves turned black, and smell of burning chili peppers lingered in the air, right? So it affected everything, plants, animals, human beings, plus it also affected the environment and ecosystem. Then 10,000 people may have died immediately, and around 30 to 50,000 were permanently disabled. They could not ever return to their jobs, right? So moving on to the first part of the question, which is the ethical issues involved. So the first thing is that a chemical pesticide factory was established in such a densely populated area, right? So this is one thing which is an ethical issue. How can you establish a chemical pesticide factory in an area where so many people are living? So that is one thing. Secondly, no emergency plans or drills. Now, if you have established a pesticide factory, you should have all the evacuation measures and drills and everything, safety measures in place. But this was not the case. So you are actually risking the lives of so many people. And when the disaster happened, all these lives were lost. Thirdly, business interests versus human safety versus environment protection, right? So business interests include uh, doing the chemical pesticide factory operations anywhere wherever the uh, location is favorable for them, right? Human safety, it was not safe for humans to establish such a factory in a city. This is another thing. Versus environment protection, if this factory is established in a place where which is remote and the nature is pristine. So again, if you establish a factory there, again all the byproducts etc. will pollute it. So environment protection, all these three are in conflict with each other. Then you have cost benefit ratio of safety measures. So now the safety measures cost a lot and the benefit is actually remote. So the probability of such a disaster occurring is very less, right? So cost benefit ratio is huge because benefit is less and cost is high of implementing such safety measures. So that whether you value safety more or the cost more is what is the ethical issue over here. Then you have negative externalities of industrial development. So these industries are getting developed and they are polluting the environment. There could be man-made disasters like what happened with the Union Carbide's plant, and you might have heard of the BP oil spill as well. So there are negative externalities to industrial development, but industrial development is important for economic development and human progress. However, such events can uh, be a huge setback for the mankind or for the population who are living in that area. So as a district collector, what would you do? So I would immediately contact Union Carbide Limited CEO to ascertain the cause of the leak and provide emergency information to treat people, right? So if I'm the district collector and I see that such a thing has happened and the fumes are coming out of the UCIL factory, I would immediately contact the management and try to find out what has caused all this disaster and what is the information using which I can begin treatment of people. Secondly, I would authorize the implementation of disaster relief measures immediately to evacuate people staying near the pesticide plant. So people were in a state of confusion as to what is happening. And if I come to know that such a disaster, such a man-made disaster or chemical disaster is underway, I would immediately kick in disaster relief measures so that people can be evacuated to safer places. Thirdly, I would ask for help from nearby cities for medical supplies and hospital treatment. So the nearby cities are still safe and they can supply medicines and hospital treatment, and I can utilize the doctors who are available over there so that the large number of people who have been affected by this particular man-made disaster or chemical disaster can be treated as soon as possible. Then I would register an FIR against UCIL and order an investigation into the happenings of the incident. So many people have lost their lives, so it is obvious that I should register an FIR and order an investigation to find out whether it's an accidental leak or whether it is human error or whether it is an intentional error. What exactly is the reason? I would also prosecute UCIL for compensation for loss of human life and damage to the environment. So, since the operations and actions of UCIL have caused such a huge loss to human life and damage to environment and property, it should be prosecuted. As CEO of Union Carbide, how would you handle the situation? So, if I was CEO, what should I be doing, right? So first things first, I would order immediate shutdown of the plant and control of the uncontrolled reaction. So whatever is happening in the plant, I would order immediate shutdown so that it can be controlled. If it is not possible, I would ask other subsidiaries in other countries for their help in this regard. If it's not possible to do it immediately, then I would ask all the best brains, best minds working in the company to find out a solution to it as soon as possible. Second, I would immediately alert the district authorities to sound an alarm of man-made disaster. Now, this will help people evacuate, and people who have not been exposed to the gas, to the toxic gases, they can escape unhurt. And the disaster management authorities or district authorities can take immediate action. Third, I would order concerned employees to immediately provide details to the district authorities about the chemicals effects and how to treat it. If the employees know how this thing can be treated, they should be the ones to tell the district authorities about how to treat so many people. right? And what exactly is the cause. Fourthly, I would ensure as much help as possible to save lives in the aftermath of the leak. Since it is my company which has caused this leak, I would try to help as much as possible with resources, with manpower, in whatever way it is possible. Fifth, I would offer an unconditional apology for the inadvertent harm caused and pay compensation to the victims. So, this is the least that I can do, to apologize for the lives lost due to the business operations of Union Carbide. And since I have not intentionally caused the harm, still I should pay compensation to the victims, because it is my company's operations that have cost people their lives, and people have lost their family members, the earning family members, right? Sixth, I would order an inquiry into the cause of the leak. Once the immediate disaster settles down, I would order an impartial inquiry. And seventh, since a corporate organization can flourish only if it has a good reputation in the society it operates in, I would undertake restoration and rehabilitation measures to build credibility again. So now my corporate organization is dependent on the society that it is operating or functioning in. Hence, I should do as much as possible for restoration and rehabilitation of people and the particular area which has been affected by this toxic leak. This is also the ethical thing to do, not only to build credibility, but also for satisfaction of my own conscience. Finally, what are the institutional measures to prevent this situation, right? So here I have listed 7 measures. You can think of any other measures that you can and list those as well. By institutional measures, we mean that measures that have to be taken on a company-wide basis. It should not be individual measures, right? A piecemeal or isolated measures. It has to be institutional measures. Now, first thing, policy of no hazardous industries in residential areas. So, since we have already seen the effect of the chemical pesticide plant in Bhopal, there should be no hazardous industries in residential areas, so that the impact on human population is the least. Second, social and environmental impact assessments on continuous basis. So social and environmental impact assessments should be done regularly rather than just at the beginning of the project, because the dynamics of the project keep changing. The operations of a project might lead to certain byproducts and pollutants that might not have been expected in the beginning of the project, right? So social impact assessments and environmental impact assessments should be done regularly. Third, safety and technological audits. Now, safety measures should be incorporated, and for any hazardous industries, there should be regular audits to check whether the organizations are actually following through the safety measures, right? Technological audits, so that the latest technology can be incorporated and it can prevent leaks and accidents and uh, damages and destruction, right? So regular technological audits should also be there. Fourth, safety drills and emergency plans. Now, if a certain factory or industry is in a populated area, the safety drills and emergency plans should not only involve the particular company but also the nearby areas where it can have a negative impact, right? So these should be carried out. Safety drills and emergency plans should be prepared in advance, so that in a situation of emergency, these can be immediately kicked in. Fifth, evacuation and emergency information dissemination. So all this information should be available with district authorities, with the community leaders, and with everyone who is around or near the factory, who stays near the factory or near the pesticide plant. And all this information should be circulated and disseminated throughout the organization, so that every employee is aware of what to do in case of a particular disaster. Sixth, man-made disaster wing under NDRF and SDRF. There should be a separate man-made disaster wing, as the technology and chemicals and things like biotechnology. As these fields are emerging, nanotechnology, the byproducts and pollutants are becoming more and more complex. So there should be a man-made disaster wing which should be trained on how to tackle such man-made incidents. Of course, we cannot anticipate every chemical disaster and think about an antidote to every chemical disaster, but there should be a protocol laid, a standard protocol on what to do in such a situation, right? And the NDRF and SDRF should be trained in that protocol. Finally, local bodies, police and panchayat to be made aware of the factories and industries operating in the area and what to do in case of a mishap. Now, this is almost repetition, but local bodies, the police and panchayat should have an active role in ensuring safety and in making people aware about what to do in case of such a disaster. And they should also have information of what kind of factories and industries are operating in the area so that they have an idea of what kind of disasters can happen. So coming to practice case study number 1. So this is a current affairs based case study and it is a corporate governance case study, and you should attempt this case study and send it to the junior team for evaluation. In recent times, fugitive economic offenders like Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi have made headlines not only in India but also internationally. So, since you must have been reading current affairs, you would know what fugitive economic offenders are and the cases of Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi. So, this can be a potential question to ask. In this context, please answer the following questions. Ethical dilemmas involved, measures to prevent economic offenders from escaping punishment, corporate governance issues involved, and impact on India's standing in the world order due to such incidents. So here there is no background of the case, and the thing is that I have done this intentionally. If you see the recent papers of UPSC, a few questions are asked without any background. Like in 2019, there were questions asked about administrative reforms, and there was no background given in the particular question. It was a case study question. So now this assumes that you, as a UPSC aspirant, should be aware about the recent current affairs topics, and you should be able to analyze it then and there, right? Now this is a 20 marks question. So there are 4 parts which have been asked. So it should be equally divided. The answer should be equally divided among the 4 parts. Practice case study 2. You are the bank manager of a branch at PNB in Delhi. You realize that the cashier of the branch is involved in helping Hawala transactions by sharing account information of clients and dormant accounts with Hawala operators and entry providers. Now, Hawala is a term which you usually come across while reading the newspaper or doing your economics general studies portion. So if you have a basic understanding of Hawala, you should be able to do this particular case study. You know that the cashier is related to a powerful political family which has immense clout in the city. Also, previous attempts by a manager to discipline the cashier were met with termination from the bank and threats to his life. In this situation, please answer the following questions. So now this is a Hawala come administrative kind of case study where the cashier is related to a powerful political family and the manager has to discipline the cashier, right? So there are 2 questions, which means that you should divide the 20 marks worth of answer into 2 parts. So the first part is what are the ethical dilemmas involved, and the second part is how would you use the corporate governance mechanism of the bank to deal with this situation. Please attempt this case study and send it to the junior team for evaluation. Thank you so much. I hope that you found this particular case study session on corporate governance issues useful. and all the best.